to another exciting, powerful conversation to inspire. I'm Leo, and today I'm joined by Emma Snipp, a successful coach supporting senior leaders in making key decisions at home and at work with confidence, clarity, and conviction. Emma, thank you for joining me. I love it to hear more about your coaching journey.
Hi, Leo. So thank you for having me for a start. Also, if you don't want to call me Emma, you're very welcome. Anyone listening to call me Snippy. Most people do. The only person that doesn't like it is my little brother, who claims that it's his, and he's wrong because I was here first. So, yeah, a bit about my coaching journey. So before I was a coach, I was a chartered surveyor. I was in commercial property, and I worked for the Crown Estate, which are the guys that own like Regent Street and St James's in central London. And I was involved in retail parks, industrial parks, stuff like that. And I also had some really cool stuff. So I had Elton Palace was one of my favourites. So I had all these things like that. So it was a really cool job. But whilst I have felt like I'd got myself to this point where I had a really good job in an industry that kind of fallen in my lap, I was going to be a teacher. It didn't work out. I got a job on a reception desk in a property company and it went from there. And I kind of had found myself in a position with this great job in this great company. And it just never really felt right. It just never really felt like me. And I loved the people. It's a very sociable industry. It's all about who you know, how you get on with people. And I managed lots of people externally, not internally. So I had all these big groups of people that I worked with, very, very clever people, really knew their stuff. And I loved that side of it, but I just never felt right. And I ended up getting involved in all of the well-being side of things. I was like a well-being champion, and I was on this panel for managers, and I did the mental health first aid coaching, and all of that sort of thing. So I kind of started going down that route, and I found myself getting in trouble with my director for taking my eye off the ball a little bit too much with my job, because I was so into like this the human side of things, and also going down the pub for lunch too much. So between those things, I realized that this probably wasn't the world for me. So then I had coaching myself in the office, and this woman was wonderful. She was supposed to coach me corporately. So we signed all the forms, and she was told she needed to work with me on XYZ. And as soon as the door was closed, she went to me, right, I'm here for you. Like, screw them, right? You do what you need to do. We will talk about you. If it comes up with work, cool. If it doesn't, whatever, this is your time. And she was amazing. Like, she opened my eyes up so much. And I realized that I was holding on to all of these things about my stepdads and my ex-husband, and all of these awful things were holding me back in the office. And it was the first time I realized that what impacts you in one area of your life can impact you in another area of your life. And you get these patterns when they show up. So anyway, I was like, oh, this is brilliant. So on the weekends, I started training up to be a coach myself, string on the bow and all that jazz. And COVID hit, and work was really hard. I had these couple of moments where I had to let down some very small recruiters, not recruiters, tenants, who were basically like family businesses. And I felt so guilty about it. I felt like I was destroying their lives as a landlord, and I just didn't cope with it very well. So I quit and I started coaching. And luckily, I was good at it, which is lucky, because otherwise I would have been royally screwed. Yeah, so I ended up kind of setting myself up in this new industry. I pretty much leaped in. I think I had like 2 months worth of savings. I had to sell my flat. Right, I met this guy on Hinge during COVID, which happened to be the love of my life and the nicest man ever, which was really fortunate, because otherwise I would have gone insane. And yeah, I just kind of followed my nose, and it went from there. And I ended up kind of in this area where I now work with kind of leaders. A lot of people I work with are still in property law, construction, just because that's my network. But I find I work with these people that come to me about work, And then often we end up talking about whether or not they want to leave their partner or go part-time or change their careers. And it's all the same stuff, no matter what angle you come from. And I find that fascinating. So that's pretty much how I ended up here. And then I met you as well, and you meet all these wonderful people in coaching. There's like you interviewed recently Tony Milliken, who is one of my all-time favorite people ever. She's a brilliant coach. If you haven't listened to that podcast yet, guys, you should go listen to that, because she's brilliant. She's sharp as a tack. Yeah, and you just meet all these people and you just spend all your time, helping people have better lives and getting paid for it. So, what could be worse? It's just lovely. I love it.
Well, yeah, that's great journey. It sounds like a lot of it kind of happened organically from kind of taking an interest in it, eventually becoming a coach yourself.
Yeah, it was one of those eureka moments. I remember turning up to the course. I did this coaching training called Animas. Other training are available. And I knew from the first second on the first weekend that I was like, this is me. This is what I should be doing. This is what I'm good at. I'm also incredibly competitive. If you know anything about saboteurs, I'm a hyperachiever. I'm like 9.9% hyperachiever or something. So I have to be the best, and I have to be good at everything, and I have to throw everything at it if I love it. And I just knew there were a lot of people in the group who wasn't sure, and they were just testing it and testing. I just knew from the off, I was like, this is me. And I'd never had that in my life before, where I'd done something and thought, this couldn't be more me if I tried. And I kind of fell into it by accident, which goes to show you in life, you just try things because you never know what's going to click. I fell into it by accident, and now I can't imagine doing anything else. So it's brilliant.
Yeah, and then that's such a good course. I definitely agree. So my next question is, what inspires you?
So this is quite a tough one, because I don't have one thing that inspires me. Like, I don't have a faith per se. I'm a bit spiritual, but not massively. And I was trying to think about that, and all I could really come up with was people, which sounds so cheesy and cringy. I'm like, I don't want to be that person. Don't say that. But I couldn't think of anything else, because genuinely it's about, what is success to you, right? What is success? Is it the title? Is it the money? Is it the happiness? Is it contentment? Is it the family? Is it the house? Is it a mixture of all these things? And I look at people around me that have these different elements of what I want from life, whether it be a personality trait or an outlook or a nice job and a decent car, these sort of things. But I meet these people, and especially these days, I meet such interesting people. And it's really hard not to be motivated and inspired by their energy and their outlook and their achievements. If you drop the comparisonitis and take the bits that you think, well, considering where I am compared to you, so we're not the same, so it's cool, then all of a sudden it's like they become, instead of people that you think, oh, sod you've got everything, they become what on the course we did together, Leo, they refer to as pips, which is proof it's possibles. And you look at these people, and some of them just smile all the time. I have people like that I love, and they inspire me just because they're happy. And and you think, you must have been dropped on your head as a baby or something to be that happy. But I aspire to be the same. So I think I couldn't come up with anything other than people, which is a pretty good answer, but also incredibly cheesy. So please forgive me.
I think it's a great idea. I think other people inspire loads of people I know. I'm always being inspired. And like you said, when you drop that whole comparison thing, and you can really see what other people are doing and what the difference that they're making, I think just being in contact with those people is so powerful.
Mm, yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of it's outlook. So like take my partner, for instance. He he's very pragmatic, he's very practical. He's one of those really bloody annoying people who seems to be good at everything. You know, he's one of those. He's a bit of an arse, to be honest with you. You don't know what I see in him. But he's I love the way he looks at things and he just seems to see answers. But I am the opposite. I'm like head in the clouds, his feet on the ground. So between us, we make a brilliant team. I would never want to think like him because I like how I am, but I'm inspired by how he looks at something and just sees these different angles and these different ways of solving things that I just couldn't see. You know, so it's things like that, it's outlooks like that. That's what I find pretty inspiring.
Yeah, I agree. When we can sort of take into consideration other people's perception, we can see how others see the world. Really quite interesting, isn't it? The, my next question is, what difference would you like to see or make in the world?
So this one is easy because I do have a mission. You know, I've done all of that, you know, thinking about what my vision and mission is in my business, etc., etc. And it's just to bring contentment, right? Sounds simple, absolutely isn't. Because I have a theory that almost everything that is wrong from in the world on a relationship to relationship status or basis, right up to world wars, all comes down to somebody somewhere is uptight, pissed off, unhappy, feels small, feels unworthy, has to prove themselves, you know, something, chip on their shoulder, something, unless there's actually something, you know, behaviorally wrong with them. Most of them are thoroughly miserable for some reason or another. And if everybody could just be content, a lot of that goes away. A lot of it, a lot of the problems in the world on a person by person basis, macro, micro, whatever you want to look at, whatever level, would go away if people were just content. And no, I don't say happy, I say content because there is a big difference. Because I always say you can be content and have a shit day and still be content. You can't have a shit day and be happy. It's really hard. Happiness is fleeting. Contentment is the game. So that's my mission. That's what I would love to see. Again, mega cheesy, but if you stop and think about it, it makes a lot of sense. If I could just inject a little bit of contentment in everybody out there, it would just, I just think the world would be such a better place.
Interesting how you say that on a large and a small scale, because you're right, you know, even some of the biggest problems in the world can be probably traced back to one particular person.
Yeah, yeah. Armies are not fought by the people that, you know, put forward the idea for army and war and all that crap, are they? I mean, there's no point getting political, but you know, it never is masses. It's always handfuls. And there are always people that feel disgruntled about something politically, economically, whatever. You know, yeah. Contentment and if you people are content as well, they just are far more accepting, they're less judgmental. If you're happy in yourself, you don't really give a toss what someone else is doing. So yeah. Now I've just solved it. I'm not even drunk. This is like being down the pub. I've not even had a pint. Can you imagine what we do right now if we both had a few whiskeys? I mean, seriously, there'd be no hunger or anything left. We'd have solved it.
Maybe that idea for another interview.
Let's do it.
Ages interview with alcohol.
I'm there.
Could be interesting. So, that we got opinion. What else would you like that, like people to know or hear?
What would I like them to know or hear?
Yeah.
Um, I think it's just about having a little bit of self-reliance, patience, and just a bit of, again, gross and cheesy, but a bit of self-love. We practice, we preach, sorry, not practice, we preach about, loving yourself and all of this, and being accepting and not being judgmental. But the truth of it is, the reason people struggle to love themselves and accept themselves is because we're not all rays of sunshine. We do have dark sides, we do have grey thoughts, we do have spiteful intentions sometimes. And it's about knowing in life that as long as your overall intention is good, if you're a decent human being that doesn't really mean any harm, then having dark thoughts and thinking bad things about yourself and others, you can just put them down to fleeting, and that doesn't mean you're a bad person. If you can accept that, if you can accept yourself warts and all, the parts of yourself you don't like, it's easier to then go down this self-love kind of channel and think more of yourself. And then the more you think of yourself, the easier it is to accept others, because we tend to see what we don't like in ourselves and other people. So if we think someone's a bit of a bitch, we're probably bitchy. If we think somebody else is judgmental, we're probably judgy. If we think somebody else is short-tempered, we probably get there quick ourselves. People tend to mirror us. So if we can learn to accept the sides of ourselves we're not so fussed with, and then love ourselves as a whole, it becomes easier to appreciate everybody else. And then you're then on that journey again to contentment.
Yeah, that really, really true. We sort of see our behaviour in others, don't we? What we don't like in others is normally actually what we don't like in ourselves, even if we don't always know it.
Yeah, someone said to me once that you'll never be criticised on your journey by someone ahead of you. And it's so true. If someone tears you down or pulls you back, it's because they're jealous or you've triggered something in them that they don't like. Somebody that's walked the path already will go, "You're doing well, keep going." They're not going to knock you down. So, if you think about that, if you internalize that and flip that back and look at yourself, if you look at somebody else and you have a desire to say there's something wrong with them or pull them down or put them back in their box or make them quieter or, they just do my head in, but you feel the need to do something about that, not just keep it to yourself like, "Oh, they irritate me, I'll just distance." There's something going on there about how you see you for them to trigger that in you.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you, Anna. And we're going to wrap it up now. Thank you, Snippy. And how can people connect with you?
Wow, thanks, Leo. So I am on Facebook and Instagram. So Facebook's Emma Snipp and Instagram Emma Snipp Coaching. But if you want to connect with me and follow my content and understand a bit more about what I do, and I have these things as well called Emma Snippets, which is just like 6 or 7 minutes of me ranting once a week at a camera with or without lipstick, depending on my mood, then come and find me on LinkedIn. But thankfully, I have one of those names. If you just put me in Google, Emma Snipp, SNIPP, simple 1P is a common snip, and we're not that. I will come up. So you can find me whatever way you want. There is one other Emma Snipp in the country. She works in health and safety. Ignore her. She's a fraud. I am Emma Snipp. So, but I come up above her now because, boss in life. God help her if she ever listens to this. I'm sorry. It'd be lovely to meet you. Be nice to people, kids.
Okay, well, I will share all your social media links and website with this interview.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure, Leo. Thank you so much.
Thank you, and thank you to everybody who watched this interview, and H's interview will be back soon with another powerful conversation. Bye for now.